I run a business that works across 10 countries now, trying to convince packaged goods companies and retailers that they're missing one critical piece of information. My task is to say, you're missing something. There's a piece of data that you absolutely need that you currently don't get. And that's what my business is all about. But before I get into that, let me just explain how I even came into this field and where the idea came from. My background is entirely in packaged goods marketing. I was a brand manager with Unilever, and I spent the first 10 years of my career doing all the usual stuff that marketing people do. I then got moved into sales at the point that category management first came about. This was about in the early 90s. And for the first time, manufacturers started to think we can use information, insight, and data to actually do a better job working with our retailer partners. I was really excited about that idea because it seemed to me that was the logical way to sell anything, to sell from the customer's point of view backwards, not just selling what we wanted to do and trying to persuade people, often just with a big check. So I got into the field of category management thinking this was a really sensible way for the industry to develop and also pretty good career opportunity. So I was consulting in that space for best part of 10 years. And all through that time, it was evident to me that we're missing something. I used to spend a lot of time working with all the various data sources, but all the time I was running workshops, we'd end up at a point where we'd look around the room and say, hey guys, what do we need to do to actually create some growth in our category? And what do we need to go and say to our retailer? At that point, everybody just started to guess. We didn't really know what the shopper wanted, and we didn't really know what the solutions should be. And so we'd have to stop. We'd drop tools, we'd leave the room, we'd go out and we'd commission a piece of market research. We'd have to commission our own shopper research every time. Expensive, time consuming, and frankly, a bit of a waste of time. There had to be a better way. So my colleagues and I came up with the idea of shopper intelligence. It's a much more efficient and a much more effective way of getting the direct voice of the shopper into the conversation. We feel that without it, the shopper doesn't get ignored, but basically the needs of the shoppers are just guessed at. We just use our gut feel and try and figure out what we should do. I believe that data is a better way to make decisions. So shopper intelligence is an extra piece of data that, although yes, I know you don't want more data, firstly, it definitely tells you stuff you don't know right now. It tells you things that will be very, very useful. And thirdly, it's not particularly expensive. But the one thing I want to leave you with is a critical success factor. If you're a manufacturer and you want to talk to retailers and you want to persuade them to take on board your plans and do what you're asking for, you need to take their point of view. The key thing about shopper intelligence is it looks at the problem, at the category, from a retail buyer's perspective. It measures all the categories in one process, so we create benchmarks from one category to another, and that's the world that the retail buyer lives in. And also, very importantly, we benchmark all the retailers one to another. So there's two dimensions of benchmarking, across the store and one retailer to another. And believe you me, that data really brings to life your proposals and makes them incredibly persuasive. So I know you're drowning in data, I know you want to spend less, but actually spend a tiny bit more on this, and first of all, you'll have much better decisions, and secondly, you'll get a lot better value from all the other stuff you're buying. All I do is just invite you to take a look, see what you think.